So I just really wanted to quickly address kind of what the problem is with what we did this morning. And I don't want to say it's a problem as much as it is just kind of like the standard that makes everything fucking pointless. The female that we brought in, Me Too, I've named her. She basically, the reason that I ended up encountering this animal and just being absolutely fucking fed up is because I sit there at the coffee shop in the morning because I've got to get tweaked out of my gourd in order to just do anything at all these days. And so I'm sitting there at the coffee shop. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and she comes up to me, and there's like 5 boys around there from the neighborhood, and she just, she comes, and we just, sort of had this moment together, and I felt like, I'm really tired of watching you get gang raped, sweetheart. Like, I drive down this road all the time, and of course all the dogs roam. Nobody keeps any of their animals in any way confined. It's like in Vietnam, you kind of have a choice of either people just leave an animal on a short chain, or they let them roam around, and then they end up getting diseases, they end up getting hit in traffic, and they end up getting stolen. Bad things happen to them, whatever. Roaming animals just don't ever really live a particularly long life in any country that's not a Vietnamese issue. But so she just kind of was like in a situation where I personally was able to help her. And the reason that rescue doesn't work is that every animal on this street needs to be sterilized, vaccinated, dewormed, and there needs to not be any more. Because the reason that there doesn't need to be any more animals here is because people let them roam around and accept the fact that they're going to be murdered young. And I say murdered, I mean murdered not necessarily by being stolen and killed for dog meat, but murdered in the sense of like their deaths are unnecessary. Their suffering is all preventable, whether it's from dying from something quite simple like Vivian had, where, she had mange, she's got canis, anaplasma, whatever. She's like all these things that are wrong with an animal that's completely ignored and given no veterinary care. And that just shouldn't happen. But she was able to get to us only because, like I said, I have not actually, in spite of many threats, put the fork inside of my eyeball as I dream of so often, in order to prevent seeing the amount of suffering that is constantly around me. And so she was able to get to me, and this dog was able to get to me because at 6 o'clock in the morning I have coffee so I can tweak my tits off so that I can do a job that I fucking hate, that I feel has no purpose anymore. And ultimately, after being here for 10 years, I think like in 1 or 2 years, you still sort of have hope. And in 5 years, you still sort of like have this weird hope. I'm 10 years in, I feel nothing. I feel nothing. I feel either apathy or rage. These are the 2 options that I have. This is all that I have left. Partially that is compassion fatigue. Partially that's just general exhaustion. And I don't necessarily mean physical exhaustion. I am in really good shape. My full-time job is to stay in as good shape as possible in all parts of my body in order to be able to continue to do this indefinitely, because our staffing situation is absolute fucking garbage. So yeah, I'm physically in great shape, but even when you're training at like an Olympic level, if you're fucking trying to win Wimbledon, you have days off. You just need that. And when we don't get that, it's really bad for us. But it's not about cleaning. I can clean every day. Everybody has to clean every day. I have animals. I've always cleaned every day. I've been working with animals my whole fucking life. I've been, I've had barns. I've had 40 horses on an Air Force base. I've had fucking, 25 stalls to clean in the morning before 8. I'm not like bothered by that. I'm fucking exhausted. So there is part of this feeling of complete apathy, nihilism, I think is probably a better word for it. And compassion fatigue that comes from the fact that I don't ever have any time off. I have no life at all. The only thing I actually enjoy about my existence is going to the gym and eating, which I no longer really even want to do. I don't find any pleasure in food. I did just go to the dentist though yesterday, and while my teeth look amazing, I am in a lot of pain. But so like food's off the table, quite literally. And that used to be my one joy that kept me alive, and now it doesn't. And so I see all of these things happening every day. I see a neighborhood that I've lived in for so long, nearly a decade. I see no change. And the reason that we have no change is because ultimately everything lies on the veterinary capacity of this country. It relies on the public health capacity, because public health and the veterinary industry and their capacity together are intertwined in ways that we cannot separate. People want to ignore that for their own convenience and ignorance, but the reality is that most people here don't give a shit what happens to these dogs, because they don't understand at all their own reproductive systems. They do not understand basic nutrition and biology and things like this that are not taught to them through the public health system. I've met 27-year-old women who asked me where babies come out. That's a scary thing to be asked by a 27-year-old woman. So kind of, which is funny because there's animals fucking all around us. It's not like it's a fucking secret where babies come from, guys. I don't feel any hope unless there's any way to just fully extricate ourselves from the entire process of rescue, which is impossible because we're not blind. And I say we, meaning I, because I, at this point, I'm the only thing holding this shit up. And in spite of having other staff, the person on the ground does have a lot of responsibility. And even when I'm not here, I still have all the responsibility. And I'm the only person that has veterinary experience to be able to manage the cases. It's weird even looking at my face now. I don't even recognize myself. My eyes look dead, because that's what I feel like. I do feel like this is just sort of this like repetition, year after year after year after year, of trying to do something that's impossible, because ultimately the problem that we're trying to solve is apathy and a public health system that will never function, and an education system that will never focus on public health. And thus the veterinary industry is always going to be at a completely pointless level. And at the same time, I've given everything I have, and I've got nothing left. There's nothing left. I have no passion for it. There's a kick you get. And there's a bit of a kick you get when you know that you've changed somebody's life for a period of time. And that's what I've done. But she will die young. Me Too will die young. Hashtag Me Too. Her time is limited, because she's going right back to the same situation. And it is this situation that is unchangeable. It's unchangeable within my lifetime. It's unchangeable because apathy is incurable. Because confronting something that nobody considers to be a problem is impossible, particularly in a non-confrontational culture. And that's true for everywhere, really. If they don't see it as a problem, in spite of the fact that there are Vietnamese organizations and plenty of information out there in Vietnamese, if the general public does not find what we do to be solving a problem, and people continue to look at me, this person who has lived on their street for almost a decade, if they still look at me like I'm some batshit crazy white lady, what the fuck are we doing? And for me to say I don't personally want to be doing this anymore is a pretty logical statement. But as I wake up and have coffee, and as I know for a fact that the one thing I do know how to do, and I know how to do it really well, is to take a situation of individual suffering and immediately alleviate it. And I think that's the draw of rescue. It is the addiction of rescue. It is the savior complex. It's that feeling that I know specifically I have no power to alleviate my own suffering, exhaustion, compassion fatigue, PTSD, my own physical problems, my foot that's falling apart that I'm never going to be able to stop fucking standing and walking and hustling on, while we have nobody to take over my position here. I still know that I can fix her life, that I can help Tom, that I can help Vivian, that I could help Clitoris, the little kitten that there's this feeling inside of me of like, well, but this is my job. This is what I do. This is what the organization does. In spite of the fact that every time any other staff has tried to do it, I've been like, put the animal down, drive away, cry yourself to sleep and move on. We can't help anybody. But here I am in this situation, and I've done what I tell everybody not to do, because we don't have the money, we don't have the staff, we don't have the resources in the veterinary field, we don't have we don't have shit, man. And everything that takes 2 hours to do in the United States in rescue takes 2 fucking months, if we could do it at all. But ultimately, the problem, again, comes down to apathy. People don't understand what we do. People don't know why we would do it. But people don't consider animal abuse, animal suffering to be the problem that we see it as, because I come from a different frame of reference as to what suffering is and what a good life is for an animal of any species. And I can't erase that. I left the country 17 years ago, and in my head, I still see a standard of animal care that will never exist in this country in any facility. Even my own, because we lack the resources to make it like what I know in my head to be ideal. I'm rambling, but the reality is that I have no cognitive functioning anymore, and I'm just completely fucking exhausted and overwhelmed, and I don't know why I do any of this anymore. It all just feels completely fucking pointless. And yet I continue to ask for donations so that we can keep doing something, which people continue to thank me for, and I'm just like, I don't really get that. I still really don't understand at all what that means. Why would you thank me? I didn't do it for you. I wasn't. It's not personal, but it wasn't really for you. I mean, like, being a vegan, being an outspoken vegan organization and trying to shift the conversation in animal rescue away from a speciesist propaganda and welfarism, which is completely ineffective, and it is very much participating in the sixth mass extinction. I think that is for you. That's for me. That's for everybody. That's for the cats, the dogs, the birds. That's for everybody, because we have a whole bunch of animal advocates that are not even fucking not killing animals, that are sending out all this fucking propaganda that we could have cage-free eggs and effective altruism, fucking raging bullshit. Welfarism, and fucking just blows my mind, the nonsense that fucking white people in offices in Los Angeles can come up with. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what to feel, but it's really hard to go on. It's really hard to sell it because I don't believe in it anymore. And if I don't believe in it anymore, how can I ask you to? I believe in certain aspects of it. I believe in global change. I believe in, and I do understand that global change does begin in communities, but I can't change this community. Decade, man. A decade. I can't even, I've watched animals come and go here for so long. They all die so young. It's the fucking point, Why have I sacrificed a decade of my own health and sanity, not to mention my potential financial stability, by doing something that I can't even really affect change in? I don't know. A lot of people support us in emotional ways, some in financial ways, and I know that being an anti-speciesist vegan animal rights organization in this particular sector of animal advocacy, of rescue and sanctuaries, is vital in any part of the world. Vietnam just happens to be where I landed. My father was paid to kill people here. I suppose I have a lot to make up for in my family karma. So I don't know what to tell everybody. Anyway, I hope you do continue to support the organization, because we still have 30 animals that we've got to feed and vet, and eventually I'd really like to get staff in that could give me some time. So really need some fucking time.